Gallagher, who's one of that generation that will remind Richard that he's still on the hook for this, who is 16. He's the youngest ever United Nations Climate Ambassador, and he stars in Netflix's The Umbrella Academy, and he joins me now. You know, I have to ask you, there has been such an impetus on your generation, and you've agreed to sign up for this role at the UN. What makes you optimistic, given the failure on so many levels going through the last, I'd say, 10 to 20 years?
Well, I think we've seen a lot of youth activism in these past few days, and I think there's definitely a driving motivation behind a lot of today's generation to make a change. You know, we've seen global leaders stand by as corporations continue to pollute our planet, and we're upset about it. And that's why we're here, that's why we're striking, that's why there's a campaign called Act Now by the UN, because we're demanding action from both our world leaders and the general consumer.
And tell me, what is actionable? What's quantifiable? What would you like to see by some prescribed targets, even if countries and companies don't end up meeting those targets? What do you want on the table?
I'd like to see our countries meet the Paris Accords. I'd like to see us meet the 2030 goals. And I'd like to see consumers taking it upon themselves to educate their social circles, to get informed and to take action. And one of the ways that you can take action is within your diet. You can choose plant-based options. That's the #1 way you can fight climate change as an individual. But you can also share this environmental information through social media. So those are two very easy ways that the general public can also take action.
But beyond the general public, and I have to say even the option of eating a plant-based diet is highly controversial even in of itself. But getting away even from that in a minute, what do you want to see? If you were to go to one of those big agri-food companies, what do you want those companies to know?
Well, what's great about is that today we're seeing plant-based options in fast food chains, which then makes it a lot more affordable for the average consumer to take part in. Though I'd like to see more choices offered by big corporations, more choices that are environmentally friendly and sustainable.
And in terms of being with the UN at this point in time, and I know that you have obviously a lot of goodwill from the UN Secretary General, but why are you optimistic that a talking shop that hasn't gotten so much done on this issue will be able to really carry this through, especially having brought on people like you with an all earnestness or trying to make a difference?
Well, I think if nothing else, we definitely have a coming generation that is upset, that is relatively aware of what's going on, what kind of world they're going to be inheriting. That's why we're striking. That's why you see so many people coming together. We're trying to get our voices loud enough to be heard so that global leaders will take action, both in the part of governments writing legislation to enforce big business to stop polluting our Earth. So what gives me hope, what gives me positivity, is that I see people care and that a lot of our youth are starting to take notice and action.
And that is hopefully, as they're the next world leaders, maybe things will finally change. Aidan, thanks so much for coming in. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.